Am I on? I'm not as loud as I should be. Ask and you shall receive. Just a reminder this morning, Cathy and Mark are going to help us with the music. They are the song. Oh, Mark's not, just Cathy then. Okay. We're humming along. I know it's hard for some of us when we have the music in our soul, but we're just abiding by the recommendations that we've been offered, just to keep everyone healthy. Is it time, Michaela? Okay. Would you please rise in body or spirit to join Cathy in humming along to the hymn, There's a River Flowing in My Soul.
A river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul, and it's telling me that somebody, there's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my heart, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my mind. There's a river flowing in my mind, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my mind. There's a river flowing. There's a river flowing. There's a river flowing in my soul. Yes, clapping along is a great idea.
Love is the doctrine of this church. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. believed that love was the foundation of beloved community. We open this morning with his words, and I quote, "There is no east, no west, no north, no south, but one great fellowship of love throughout the whole wide world. Love is creative and redemptive. Love builds up and unites. Hate tears down and destroys. The aftermath of the fight with fire method is bitterness and chaos. The aftermath of the love method is reconciliation and creation of beloved community. Physical force can repress, restrain, coerce, destroy, but it cannot create and organize anything permanent. Only love can do that. Yes, love, which means understanding, creative, redemptive goodwill, even for one's enemies, is the solution to the race problem."
For our Chalice lighting this morning, we have two readings. The first is entitled On the Brink by Leslie Takahashi. All that we have ever loved and all that we have ever been stands with us on the brink of all that we aspire to create. A deeper peace, a larger love, a more embracing hope, a deeper joy in this life we share. The second is entitled As We Move by Orlanda Brugnola. As we move through life finding ourselves always newly wise and newly foolish, We ask that our mistakes be small and not hurtful. We do not forget our innocence, for they are both part of the whole. Please join me in saying our church's Affirmation of Covenant, followed by the singing of, humming of the Doxology. And you can hum in English and in Spanish. The words will be on the screen. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to serve others in freedom, to serve others in community, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with creation. Thus do we covenant with one another.
From all that dwell below the skies, let songs of hope and faith arise. Let peace, goodwill on earth be sung, through every land, by every tongue. De todos bajo el gran sol, surja esperanza, fe y amor, verdad de esa la canción, de cada tierra, cada voz.
Thank you, Cathy. Good morning, and welcome to the continuing virtual worship service for the Unitarian Universalist Church of Las Cruces. My name is Cathy Fitzgerald, and I'm your service associate for this morning. Members of the Multicultural Awareness Group are our service leaders. We have Jenny Parrott, Rabbit Loring, and Jane Ash. I said them out of order. My apologies, ladies. We are delighted to be with you today. Unitarian Universalism has no creed nor a dogma. We are a covenant-based church, meaning that we agree to live in relationship with each other according to the Unitarian Universalist principles and our congregation's covenant of right relations. We embrace diversity in all its forms. Everyone is welcome. You can learn more about our church and check the events calendar at our website, UUCLC.org. In order to help contain the spread of the coronavirus, we are offering hybrid services here in the sanctuary, as well as online using Zoom software. If you have any questions about how to use Zoom, you may contact Michaela, the church's technical support staff member. I'm wondering if we have any visitors with us this morning? And if you would stand, introduce yourself, and tell us how you find out about us.
Oh, well, my name is Cody Snyder. I'm previously Cody Warcutt. So I'm here visiting my mother and seeing my father in the hospital. So, remember.
Great. It's good to have you here. Any other visitors here in the sanctuary? How about on Zoom?
If so, raise your hand in the chat or turn on the microphone. Oh, it seems.
There's one.
Oh, David's telling us better. Okay, that's good. Directly following this service, there will be an opportunity to fellowship with one another. For those on Zoom, just stay linked into the site after the service ends. And for those in the sanctuary, we hope that you will continue to practice safe distancing as you gather under the portico. Today, I have a number of announcements. Due to the increased risk of contracting the virus by eating indoors without masks, the Hospitality Committee is taking a hiatus until mid-February. We're still going to gather, we're just not going to have the treats. We have 2 announcements from the Sunday Service Committee today. Next Sunday, via Zoom, the Reverend Sarah Millspaugh will return to the pulpit here in Las Cruces and preach a service entitled Looking Well to the Growing Edge. Here's how she describes the service. How do we tune our hearts to what is life-giving and growing among us, even when we don't know what is ahead? In a time when we are grieving, frayed, and afraid, how might we sustain our spirits and turn toward one another? In this time of sudden transition for the Unitarian Universalist Church of Las Cruces, our UUA regional staff contact reflects with us on learning from our past and planting seeds for the future, both in our congregational life and in our personal lives. Okay, the second announcement from the Sunday Services Committee is an invitation. One of the best sermons I've ever heard here was by a member of this congregation when she told us why she was a Unitarian Universalist. If you are willing to share your experience with us in a Sunday service, please contact Cathy Fitzgerald or Charlie Schultz to volunteer. The Finance Committee wants to thank all who have made a contribution of record recently. You know who you are. Your generosity has made all the difference to our church's finances and ensured that we finished 2021 in the black. A short reminder that after the service on January 30th, that's 2 weeks from today, Elwyn will be selling truffles in the library. Elwyn, the Truffle King or the Truffle Cupid, whichever you want to look at it. Okay, Michaela, can we get Dave Rice? He's zooming in from with an announcement from the Social Justice Committee.
Good morning, congregation, far and near. This is Dave Rice. I'm chair of the Social Justice Committee. This year, because of the COVID pandemic and its reemergence, again, we're urging that we have a service project in remembrance of Martin Luther King. And we're seeking donations for our little pantry. Last year, you vigorously supported a general appeal for little pantries in Las Cruces. This time we're being a bit more self-centered and asking that you support our little pantry, which has been established under the leadership of Jan Thompson. Today at the service there, Jan has the little blue wagon, and if you've brought donations, thank you. Tomorrow, we will also be collecting donations near the library outside from 11 to 3 p.m. For the support of our little pantry. If that's inconvenient or too hazardous for your attendance, please visit the church website and seek out social justice in our little free pantry sub-fund. Needless to say, for the little free pantry, if you're thinking of a donation in food, think you're a homeless person with no can opener and no way of cooking. So we're seeking items that can be popped open and eaten with the aid of a spoon, perhaps, or a fork. Again, thank you for your interest in this and your past support. Our need continues through the year because, frankly, the food insecurity in our community continues through the year. Thank you for your support.
Another announcement next Sunday. Our UUA regional staff, the Reverend Sarah Gibb Millspaugh and Reverend Carlton Elliott Smith, will come to us via Zoom for a conversation about our ministerial transition. In the spirit of Janus, the ancient god for whom January is named, we will look backward and forward together. backward to understand more about what happened with Reverend Dr. Kalani Kachela's departure last month, and forward to talk about how our own healing process, as well as what might be next for UUCLC's ministry. Whew. There's a lot happening here, folks. Thank you all for being with us today.
This morning, I am going to be reading Black Misery by Langston Hughes. And this book was published in the 60s. The book was given to my sons, and the book speaks to what was and what we are trying to change. You will see the book on the screen as I read. Misery is when you heard on the radio that the neighborhood you live in is a slum, but you always thought it was home. Misery is when the teacher asks you who the father of our country was, and you said Booker T. Washington. Misery is when your pals see Harry Belafonte walking down the street and they holler, look, there's Sidney Poitier. Misery is when your white teacher tells the class that all Negroes can sing and you can't even carry a tune. Misery is when the kid next door has a party and invites all the neighborhood but you. Misery is when your very best friend calls you a name she really didn't mean to call you at all. And then misery is when you call your very best friend a name you didn't mean to call her either. Misery is when nobody told you the floor walker would stop you from riding up and down the escalator 16 times when mama is shopping. Misery is when somebody meaning no harm called your little black dog nigger. He just wagged his tail and wiggled. Misery is when your mother said, considering the kind of family your new friend Leori has, even if he is white, you can't play with him. Misery is when you always heard the old folks say, Mississippi is a place to be away from. And on your first day in a new school, the kids ask, are you from Mississippi? Misery is when you start to play a game and someone begins to count out, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Misery is when you can see all the other kids in the dark, but they claim they can't see you. Misery is when you find out your bosom buddy can go in the swimming pool, but you can't. Misery is when the taxi cab won't stop for your mother and she says a bad word. Misery is when you find out Golden Glow hair curler won't curl your hair at all. Misery is when the colored actor on the Late Late Show bucks his eyes at the wind, shaking out the shutters as if he really believes in ghosts. Misery is when you first realize so many things bad have black in them, like black cats, black arts, black ball. Misery is when your mother won't let you play your new banjo in front of the other race. Misery is when you go to the department store before Christmas and find out that Santa is a white man. Misery is when the only man on the bus who is drunk and talking out of his mind is black. Misery is when you start to help an old white lady across the street and she thinks you're trying to snatch her purse. Misery is when you come back from the beach proud of your suntan and your pals don't even know you've got one. Misery is when you see that it takes the whole National Guard to get you into the new integrated school. And I think I said that the book speaks to what was and what we are trying to change. I mentioned to my youngest son that I was going to read Black Misery at church on Sunday. I asked him if he remembered the book. He said, "Oh, yes, it's by Langston Hughes."
Before we start singing, I've got Peace Like a River, I would have a little announcement to make about the choir. I'm sure you all miss seeing the entire choir in person. And we miss singing all for you too, but we agreed that we need to take a little break, partly because of the Omicron variant is so transmissive. So they need to take a break for about 4 weeks, maybe more if necessary, and also to give our cherished music director, Catherine Massey, a much deserved and needed break. Oh yes, please stand and hum along with us, because it is so transmissive and singing is the best way to transmit it, short of sneezing and coughing. That's why we're asking you all just to hum along with us.
Hey, if you know the parts, go ahead and sing them. We have lots of parts. It's those of us in the choir, right? Some of us know this song.
Hum it. Okay.
I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy
I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean in my soul. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean in my soul. I've got pain like an arrow. I've got pain like an arrow. I've got pain like an arrow in my soul. I've got pain like an arrow. I've got pain like an arrow. I've got pain like an arrow in my soul. I've got tears like the raindrops. I've got tears like the raindrops. I've got tears like the raindrops in my soul. I've got tears like the raindrops. I've got tears like the raindrops. I've got tears like the raindrops in my soul. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain in my soul. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain in my soul.
One of the ways we support one another in community is through the sharing of joys, sorrows, and milestones. Especially in this time of social distancing, it is crucial that we make attempts to stay connected to one another. Our church's website has a link which allows you to confidentially submit a joy, sorrow, or milestone. You can specify if you'd like your submission shared with the caring team and or the congregation, or if you prefer it to remain confidential. These are the joys and sorrows which were sent into the church office prior to this morning's service. We continue to hold in our thoughts and prayers Bob Davis, who is being treated for an infection intravenously. Shirley contacted me last night, and it's a good day if Bob sleeps well. So we hope that he gets better soon. We also have two sorrows shared by Martin Rodriguez. Martin says his father passed away on December 14th due to COVID in Juarez, Mexico. He is having to relocate to Juarez to occupy his home and keep it from being vandalized or taken until he can legally claim it and sell it. And he feels that that will take almost a year. He wants to thank everyone here at the UUCLC for being so good to him. He hopes that he'll be able to visit, but he doubts that he'll be able to return to New Mexico to live. He says, God bless you all, and may we cross paths again. Good vibes, and be well. For our meditation today, I'd like to share the Pastoral Prayer of Longing, written by Karen G. Johnston. May the invitation of prayer and meditation embrace this holy house and each precious person, moving each and all to connect with a sense of affirmation, sound, movement, or silence, in whatever way your body knows to be true. Spirit of life and love, our hearts are overflowing with lamentation and longing. Longing for a world with more hope and less despair. Longing for more happy hearts and fewer hungry mouths. Longing for a life of more connection and less isolation. Longing for a brave love, a growing seed within us, spreading far and wide. Longing for a future of less consumption and more compassion. Actually, longing for that now. Longing for a government that quells hate and violence rather than generates it. Longing for a president that speaks truth. Longing for a nation that acknowledges its injustices and works to make them right. Longing for a present with each of us doing what is ours to resist racism and all forms of systemic oppression. Longing for compassion, companions to give us courage that we might be the people these times require to bring about beloved community. In this circle of care and compassion, we hold those who have shared their joys with us, for each shared joy is a form of nourishment for all of us. In this circle of care and compassion, we faithfully witness those who have shared their sorrows with us, for each shared sorrow touches our hearts, and we accept the call to lighten the burden of our friend. In the next few moments of stillness, let our hearts pray the prayers only they know until the bell rings again.
Our reading today, Marginal Wisdom, comes from the works of the author, Leslie Takahashi. They teach us to read in black and white. Truth is this, the rest false. You are whole or broken. Who you love is acceptable or not. Life tells its truth in many hues. We are taught to think in either or, to believe the teaching of Jesus or Buddha, to believe in human potential or a power beyond a single will. I am broken or I am powerful. Life embraces multiple truths, speaks of both and of and. We are taught to see in absolutes, God, good versus evil, male versus female, old versus young, gay versus straight. Let us see the fractions, the spectrum, the margins. Let us open our hearts to the complexity of our worlds. Let us make our lives sanctuaries to nurture our many identities. The day is coming when all will know that the rainbow world is more gorgeous than monochrome, that a river of identities can ebb and flow over the static, stubborn rocks in its course, that the margins hold the center.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise. past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us, facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we've trod, bitter the chasing rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died, yet with a steady beat have not our weary feet come to the place for which our people sighed. We have come over a way that with tears has been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered, out from the gloomy past, till now we stand at last, where the bright gleam of our bright star is cast. God of our wearies, God of our silent tears, Thou who hast brought us thus far on our way, Thou who hast wide eyed led us into the light, keep us forever in the path we pray, lest our feet stray from the places of God where we met Thee, lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget Thee, shadowed beneath Thy hand. May we forever stand true to our God, true to our native land. True to our God, true to our native land.
Good morning. I'm Rabbit Loring, representing the UUCLC Multicultural Awareness Group, who planned the service for today. We decided that we wanted to share with you the story of our journey toward beloved community, which we tell by addressing the three questions that you might be familiar with. Who are we? Where do we come from? And where are we going? First, who are we and where do we come from? The Multicultural Awareness Group came together as the result of an overpowering need to confront the racism permeating our culture and society. At the end of 2019, Jennifer Kwong presented an intercultural development inventory workshop for our church, along with Silver City and Alamogordo UUs. It opened our eyes. We were surprised, perhaps shocked, that we were not as enlightened as we thought we were. In other words, as a congregation, we did not truly appreciate cultural differences different from our own, even if we thought we did. We underestimated our intercultural competence. Dr. King tells us, there comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe, nor politic, nor popular, but he must take it because conscience tells him it is right. And our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. In January of 2020, Shirley Davis sent out a call to action so as not to be silent about something that mattered to us deeply. And about a dozen of us responded. We decided we needed information before we could do any real work toward becoming anti-racist. We met and continue to meet every 2 weeks, and we're always open to having more folks join us. Our Zoom meetings are open to all who want to expand their intercultural competence. Initially, we started with book studies to see what we could learn about anti-racism. As a group, we read White Fragility, Why Is It So Hard to Talk About Racism by Robin DiAngelo, How to Be Anti-Racist by Ibram Kendi, Uprooting Racism, How White People Can Work for Racial Justice by Paul Keivel, Breathe, A Letter to My Sons by Imani Perry, The Sum of Us, What Racism Costs Everyone and How We Can Prosper Together by Heather McGee. We also studied Widening the Circle of Concern, a report of the UUA Commission on Institutional Change. This book analyzes the marginalization of Black, Indigenous, and people of color, or BIPOCs, within our UU organization and what we can do about it. In addition to the books, we found interesting articles, videos, and podcasts to send to each other about racism, including such topics as housing practices after World War II, the history of Reconstruction, affirmative action, reparations, the caste system, and the writings of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We looked at the current German Constitution as a good example of clearly including all persons as equals, no amendments needed as in the US Constitution. Through heartfelt, intense discussions, we confronted the origins of our culture's white supremacy philosophy and implicit bias. We looked deep inside ourselves to discover where we perhaps unconsciously held these ideas. We shared our feelings and emotions that were brought up by the books we read. We grew in our confidence and trust in each other by sharing these deeply buried cultural beliefs and how our society created and still perpetuates them. By acknowledging instead of denying these beliefs, we knew we could choose to make conscious changes. We learned how to be more in touch with our true selves from our readings and discussions. But we realized that anti-racism involves doing something with what we learned. We struggled with which actions to take. We held a demonstration in front of our church on June 25th, 2020, with 25 UUs in attendance, masked and physically distant. Perhaps some of you were there with us. I see some hands. We held powerful racial justice signs. It felt wonderful to hear the honks, fist pumps, and whoops as cars passed by and read our signs. COVID rules at that time kept us from having more of these demonstrations. We looked at local law enforcement policies that could be used unjustly when dealing with race and corresponded with local agencies about them. We researched improved training with racism sensitivity in mind. We met with Lieutenant Kiri Daines from the Las Cruces Police Department, Sheriff Kim Stewart from Doña Ana County, District Judge Lisa Schultz, and Micah Pearson from the National Board of NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, to discuss how the legal system regards race in its practices. We found that these community leaders and others in their agencies and organizations are working to change racist systems. As a group and as individuals, we took actions by participating in local events and community organizations supporting BIPOCs to effect change in our local community. Peacefully demonstrating at the Browningen Library in support of Black Lives Matter. Marching with the NAACP before Martin Luther King Day last year. Attending the vigil for the rights of migrant workers, along with the CAFE organization. Supporting legislation promoted by Black Lives Matter and the ACLU to get rid of private prisons. Writing letters of support for changing social studies curriculum guidelines to encourage truth in telling the history of Indigenous and minority people in New Mexico and in the country. Calling state and national representatives and senators to ask for their support on legislation impacting the movement toward racial justice. Working with the Border Servant Corps, welcoming asylum seekers. Doing advocacy work with members of Congress with the National Immigration Action Team of UUs for Social Justice. Holding Black Lives Matter signs at protests. Joining the board of PFLAG. Holding signs in support of Tony Valenzuela, a local Hispanic man killed unjustly by police. Many of us attended the Multicultural workshop given by Reverend Anthony Tuaswa Johnston on removing unconscious debris from the soil of the soul in May of 2021. Along with the Eighth Principle Group, we helped lead Casita meetings prior to the congregational vote on the Eighth Principle held on October 24th, just 2 months ago. This was an important step in our congregation's journey toward beloved community. We wrote stories about our past experiences with racism and included several short excerpts, which were distributed prior to the vote to inspire the congregation about the need for adopting the Eighth Principle. In all of these activities, we as members of the Multicultural Awareness Group have delved deeply into getting to know ourselves, including our biases that might be keeping us from becoming prepared to assist in dismantling racism. As you can see from the progression of our activities, we're working to hone our skills to listen deeply without judgment to the stories, issues, dreams, and concerns of those who live on the margins of our society. In so doing, we've searched our souls to discover what we must change in ourselves in order to create beloved community. This morning, we'd like to share with you some of our stories about the beginnings of our personal journeys toward creating beloved community. The Eighth Principle Group joined us in this part of the journey. But before we share these stories, we'd like to briefly define the meaning of beloved community, which we believe provides a social and emotional environment to move toward dismantling racism. Beloved community is a term that was first coined in the early days of the 20th century by the philosopher, theologian, Josiah Royce, who founded the Fellowship of Reconciliation. However, it was Martin Luther King Jr., also a member of the Fellowship of Reconciliation, who popularized the term and invested it with deeper meaning, which has captured the imagination of people of goodwill all over the world. For King, the beloved community was a realistic, achievable goal that could be attained by a critical mass of people committed to and trained in the philosophy and methods of nonviolence. One of the key aspects of beloved community is the concept that all forms of discrimination, bigotry, and prejudice will be replaced by an all-inclusive spirit of sister and brotherhood, which evolves from the practice of agape love. Agape love is one of the three forms of love identified by Greek philosophers, which is described by King as understanding, unmotivated, groundless goodwill for all. Agape does not begin by discriminating between worthy and unworthy people. It begins by loving others for their sake and makes no distinction between friend and enemy. It's directed toward both. How do we begin this journey toward building beloved community and achieving love for all? As Dr. King says, if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. And faith is taking the first step, even when you can't see the whole staircase. As we took our first steps toward personal change, it seemed necessary to do some soul searching to find out where we came from in the development of our deeply ingrained racial biases. We didn't feel racist, but we also knew that we had not arrived at true anti-racism. It will be obvious in these stories that we were greatly influenced by the white supremacist culture we were raised in. It takes courage to acknowledge that, yes, we are racist. And yes, we can change as we learn how to be anti-racist and how to build beloved community. Here's selected quotes from our multicultural group stories. From Dale Emmert. In Sunday school class, the teacher posed the question, do you think we're racists? We don't have any Black people in our town, but there is one Indian boy. Are the kids mean to him? We all shook our heads. No, we were not racist. How could we be? I felt that everyone in our little Sunday school class was surrounded by the heavenly light of self-righteousness and smug superiority. So here I am today in a liberal church with liberal, accepting, tolerant values. I'm no longer in that smug, superior, narrow-minded, intolerant, conservative Baptist church, but I still sit with a group of all white people and we ask each other, are we racists? It's not about documenting or proving that you're not a racist. It's about taking anti-racist action and living your espoused values. That is the reason to have high ideals, like the 8th principle. It's not to brag about how perfect we are, but to realize how imperfect we are and have something to strive for. Neither feeling guilty about the past nor overly idealistic about the future really does anyone any good. Taking action and holding high ideals does. Having high ideals is not about saying, look at us, we aren't racist. It's about being a warm, accepting people and actively promoting anti-racism. From Cindy Brace. Although I had been exposed to other races and cultures, I still allowed racist behavior and thoughts to creep in. From Ginny Herrick. Am I an anti-racist? No. I realize now that I needed to join the multicultural awareness group. Being a racist is ingrained in me. From Jan Thompson. What, me racist? But I've long been anti-racist. You must have me mistaken with somebody else. But wait, now I've read so much more, learned about white privilege, learned how oppressed BIPOC folks feel in our society, like living in two worlds, and was finally awakened by these words. White supremacy isn't just guys in hoods with torches. It's the assumption that how white people traditionally do things is normal or right, and how others do things is weird or wrong. Oops, I might be racist after all. Today, I watch carefully for evidence of my racism so I can change my thinking and my attitudes and be more of an ally, friend, and advocate for change than I have been in the past. Today, I recognize that I am both racist and anti-racist. I still have much to learn, and I'm enjoying the process. From Maggie Locatelli. When I was 18, I lived for 3 months in Chicago to complete a co-op job. This was the fall of 1970. My workplace was a few blocks from where many were killed by police when the Black Panther headquarters was raided the year before. Racial tensions were high. I was not totally intellectually naive about racism and the Black Power movement. However, I had almost no contact with any African American people. This was the first time I realized that although, and maybe because of, previously living in a relatively homogeneous community, I held fear-based prejudices deep inside my psyche. I was hyper aware of people's color and especially anxious about the proximity of Black men. This realization was very upsetting to me. I felt it as something in me, but not of me, like BBs I was shot with that I would somehow need to dislodge. From Rod Sauter, we need each other to break free from all the isms used to divide and conquer. Our liberation is interconnected. From Shirley Davis, from that UU pulpit in 1998, I heard our minister say that she would devote her summer reading to autobiographies of African Americans. Journey to Wholeness was the program sponsored by the Unitarian Universalist Association at that time. This was my first inkling of the two separate lives lived by people of color and by us whites. From Jane Ash. Finally, I understand why it is so important to take a public stand for justice, to be an ally in the best sense of that word, when BIPOC people are receiving unfair treatment, but to do it without blaming, shaming, and judging others, who in all likelihood don't realize they're operating out of fear of losing something in their lives that they value. One can say this is selfish behavior, but don't we all care about what we perceive to be in our own best interest at times? It seems to me to be part of the human condition. I know I will continue to make mistakes myself in the realm of trying to support an environment of cultural inclusion, but I'm going to try hard to admit this, to ask for forgiveness, and to try to forgive myself so that I will not make the same mistake again. I'm committed to doing the hard work of cultural inclusion. It seems to me that this is imperative, as I promise as a UU to affirm and promote the worth and dignity of every person, our first UU principle. Our journey to this point was marked by numerous attempts to find an appropriate name for our group. Something catchy, something lofty. Ultimately, we realized that what we're called is less important than what we do. So we're just the Multicultural Awareness Group, growing in our awareness and encouraging us all to expand our cultural sensitivity. And now the final question, where are we going? We look for ways to be more inclusive and equitable in our daily lives, in our church, and in our larger community. We encourage the committees and groups inside our church to ask what they're doing to promote and support beloved community. Martin Luther King reminds us that faith can give us courage to face the uncertainties of the future. It will give our tired feet new strength as we continue our forward stride toward the city of freedom. When our days become dreary and low hovering clouds, and our nights become darker than 1,000 midnights, we will know that we are living in the creative turmoil of a genuine civilization struggling to be born. Where we are going is really all about the journey, for there is no final destination. We'll continue on this journey for the rest of our lives. There's always more to learn, new roads to travel, new people to meet, and our beloved community to build. Please join us in this journey.
Calamity of calamity. I lost my order of service. No, it's the words that go with the outline that I lost. But this is the time that we ask for your generous support of the efforts of this church to build a beloved community. If you consider the idea of a journey, before any explorer takes off on a journey, they have to provision themselves whatever way they're going. If it's by camel, by train, by plane, they have to have the tools and supplies to take them on that journey. And we need the same for our church. And your generous donation today will help us in our journey towards beloved community. We also are continuing our support through our social justice committee of various groups throughout the community. This quarter, we are supporting La Casa. This is a cause that is very close to my heart. La Casa is a place that supports individuals who are caught in the cycle of domestic abuse. There's education, there's legal advice, there's counseling, there's assistance to help break that cycle. That's through Change for Change. So if you can add your change to the basket, or you can support through a check. If you're viewing us online, use the members link on our website. And I thank you again for your generous support.
We will not stop singing. We will not stop singing. We will not stop singing till the world can hear the song, till the world can sing along. We will not stop marching. We will not stop marching. We will not stop marching till the world can hear the song, till the world can sing along. Till the world can sing, till the world can sing, till the world can sing along. Till the world can sing, till the world can sing, till the world can sing along.
We will not stop praying. We will not stop praying. We will not stop praying till we all can get along, till the world can sing our song.
worship service, either in our sanctuary or online, and are looking for a spiritual home, and are sympathetic with the Unitarian Universalist values and principles, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Las Cruces may be the place for you. We believe that when you become a member, you are entering in a warm and deep relationship with the church and all of our members and friends. You are becoming part of something much bigger than any of us. You're becoming a part of a movement to change our community and our world. The way you join this church is to sign the membership book. You can sign the virtual book online or the real book here. Or you can call the church, leave a message, and a member of the membership committee will contact you. Please rise in body or spirit to join or to hum along with Cathy Hawks in our closing hymn, "Oh Freedom."
Oh, freedom, oh, freedom, oh, freedom over me. And before I'd be a slave, I'd be buried in my grave and go home to my God and be free. No more moaning, no more moaning, no more moaning over me. And before I'd be a slave, I'd be buried in my grave and go home to my God and be free. They'll be singing, they'll be singing, they'll be singing over me. And before I'd be a slave, I'd be buried in my grave and go home to my God and be free.
Before the closing words today, I'd like to acknowledge that the preparation of the service was a committed team effort from some of the members from the Multicultural Awareness Group, and I want to give credit. Of course, in the beginning, Jan Thompson initiated the work and pulled the team together. There's no surprise there. And it included many other members, a number of other members, and who all spent lots of time meeting and working together. Annetta Turrentine, Jenny Herrick, Sarah Thomas, myself, and Rabbit Loring, who put in enormous effort toward writing and refining and planning for today. So thank you all. And our closing words. We leave you with the goal Martin Luther King Jr. hopes for all of us as we journey forward. These are his words. Our goal is to create a beloved community, and this will require a qualitative change in our souls, as well as a quantitative change in our lives. Let the journey begin. Please join us on this journey. We invite you with open hearts.
It's time to extinguish the flame. Please join me in saying these words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth. the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you.
Building bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, sisters, we can make such sweet harmony. Building bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, sisters, we can make such sweet harmony.
Building bridges between our divisions. I reach out to
Building bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, sisters, we can make such sweet harmony. Building bridges between our divisions. With all of our voices and all of our visions, with all of our voices and all of our visions, sisters, we can make such sweet harmony.
building bridges
Building bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, sisters, we can make such sweet harmony. Building bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, sisters, we can make such sweet harmony. Sisters, we can make such sweet harmony. Sisters, we can make such. Sisters, we can make such sweet harmony. Sisters, we can make such sweet harmony.
Sisters, we can make such sweet harmony. Sisters, we can make such sweet harmony.
Sisters, we can make such sweet harmony. Sisters, we can make such sweet harmony.